Hi, this is Cathy for TransByDef, and I would like to start out this week with a little experience that happened to me yesterday afternoon as I was going shopping in Academy. I went in Academy to pick up a very odd little item, and I just happened to walk past the gun counter while I was there. In the gun rack was a beautiful pink and black Camel AR-15. I looked at it and I just couldn't help myself. I wanted to handle that rifle. A young man that was behind the counter came up to me, and it was obvious from the way he was acting that he hadn't been working there very long, and said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, I would like to see that AR-15 that's pink there." And he looked at me and says, "Boy, that is a ugly looking color." And I said, "I think it's beautiful." And he reached the gun down off the rack, and he said, "Well, let me check to see that there are no bullets in the gun." And he tried to get the bolt to come back to check and see if there was anything in the chamber. He couldn't do that. He tried and tried, and I said, "Please hand me the gun and I'll check it for you." And there were two older men down at the end of the gun counter, and they started snickering and laughing. And I took the AR and pulled the bolt back and looked inside and checked the chamber. Asked him if he had a chamber flag, and he didn't even know what I was talking about. And I closed the chamber, looked at the gun. It was a beautiful AR by Wyndham Arms, and they had put a Teflon coat on it with all kinds of pink camel pattern, just for some woman like me to come along who liked the AR and buy it. I was very tempted to think about buying that AR. Well, I handed it back to the young man and said thank you and walked on. But I'm still chuckling the next day about the red face that he got when he couldn't get that bolt back on that AR-15, and the chuckle of the men down at the end of the aisle when he handed it to me and I opened the action. Well, let's start with today's topic. Today we are talking about HRT, and do we have any male genital pain or vaginal pain as the result of taking HRT? I have been asked this question on a number of occasions, so I feel it is a very good question. The answer that the second part of the question is, what other side effects have you had from HRT? Well, let's start out with the principal question of male genital discomfort as a result of taking HRT. I have had absolutely and positively no male discomfort from taking hormones or the testosterone blockers that go with it. The big effect that I can see on me is that my penis has decreased in size from about 2 inches in diameter down to less than your little finger. Now, to a lot of people, they would consider that is a very negative effect. The fact that I have never really liked my penis, I consider that a plus. And as we talked about last week when we were talking about sexual reassignment surgery, I would have that penis removed and have a vagina if my health would permit it at my age. So the big thing that I can see that hormones has done to my male genitalia is cause them to decrease in size and also cause the testicles to move somewhat upward. And I consider that a plus in that I don't have nearly the size of bulge that I would if they were at their full male development as they were when I was 25 or 30. So I consider that a plus rather than a minus. Have I had any other side effects to HRT? The most troubling side effect that I have from HRT is when I bump myself against something, against a cabinet or against something I'm working on, I get the most horrible looking bruise around that area. The HRT has caused me to bruise so easily and to have that skin become so brilliantly discolored when you do bump against something. I consider that a big minus because I hate having great big bruises, particularly on my arms if I'm doing anything outside. I have these big bruises on my arms, and I dislike that very much. The second thing is that, particularly when I'm working in my rose garden, is if I get caught on a rose thorn, it rips my skin. My skin, since I started to take HRT, has become softer, true, which is nice and has softened my look and made me look more like a woman. But the downside to that is that it has caused it to be very easily ripped when you catch it on anything. And it's much more easy to be cut since I've been on HRT. This leads us to the third thing, which is somewhat frustrating, and the third side effect that I really don't like. And that is that when you are cut, you bleed. In East Texas, they would say you bleed like a stuck pig, but you bleed profusely. The other day, I was under a cabinet, it came up and hit the back of my head with on the cabinet door and cut my head. It wasn't long until I had blood all the way through my hair, and it totally destroyed my hair. I had to go wash it. I had to patch the hole in my head, and it was very, very frustrating to have that much blood coming out. Head wounds are even worse than wounds on your arm, and I consider that very much of a minus. Now, there is a plus to that. I had a heart attack a number of years ago, and they had put me on blood thinners. Most heart doctors will keep you on 2 aspirin a day to thin your blood. When you start taking your hormones, the spiral and the estropipate in combination has caused my blood to become very thin and not to clot. If you take too much, it causes the reverse and causes clotting. So one of the pluses to it is that I no longer have to take blood thinners. The downside is I bleed like a pig when I'm stuck. So that is the pluses and minuses to it. Some of the other plus things that I have seen, I just love my breast growth as a result of estropipate. My breasts have developed out to the size where they look very proportional to my body, and I'm very happy with that. When I was down in my endocrinologist, she asked me about it, and I said, I like the size of my breasts and the development that they have. So that is very much a plus for me for taking HRT. The other thing that I have seen is the change in my personality. HRT has caused me to be much more standoffish. It has affected the way in which I interact with other people. My wife says that's a plus because she says you're much more mellow than you were as a man. You're not nearly as aggressive, and I think that is very much a result of the hormone replacement theory. Hormone replacement altering my thinking and causing me to react much more like a woman rather than a man. I also tend to have much more of a flashpoint like a woman does and then get over it much faster. So I think that the HRT does do some alteration to your mind which will affect the behavior that you have. At least I can see it with me very markedly. And I know my wife has mentioned it on a number of occasions that she really likes the person on HRT that is much more mellow and much more like a woman. Maybe it's because I can relate with her much easier as well. Well, those are the major points I want to make on hormone replacement theory and discomfort associated with it. I want to emphasize to those people who have asked me this question that decrease in size of my penis and my testicles as the result of HRT has not produced me any pain whatsoever. To me, it has been very much a plus, and I have enjoyed having smaller testicles. If you want to have sex, it's not going to happen when you're on a full dose of HRT, and it gets your hormone levels down to those of a woman. Well, if you have a comment, please leave it in the box below, and I will see you again next week. Bye.